I do not in any shape, form, nor fashion support the George Soros group Black Lives Matter, which is 70% white. It is not a black group. However, we have the mainstream media constantly victim blaming when it comes to black people getting shot dead when they are shot being unarmed by policemen, right? So that's the premise, right? Black man shot or child, black being shot dead while unarmed, just, being black while black. Like shopping while black. This is being black while black. This is a new category. It is open season on black people. Okay, we get that part, right? What does the media always do? Oh, he reached for his gun. Now, I want you to keep that propaganda in mind. Where was that, Ferguson? He's a big, scary black teenager, and he reached for his gun. Okay, then 15 other black people being shot dead nationwide. He reached for his gun, or even worse. He was a thug, or even worse. He was a drug dealer. He sold marijuana. Marijuana is only a crime simply because that particular state has not deemed it to be, legal, but half the states already have it on the books? And I guarantee you in probably most of these states where these people are victim blaming the black person for doing something quote unquote illegal, it's actually already in the legislature to make it completely legal. But anything that black people do has to be criminal oriented, right? You have white people literally going up to policemen, offering them joints in a place where it is completely illegal. Hands down, no bones about it. And then acting shocked if the policeman says anything about it. But here we have the white boy from Great Britain that threatened to kill Donald Trump. What's the story? He went to a cop, confessed that he was going to kill Donald Trump, and he grabbed the cop's gun. What happened to this white boy? He was arrested. A comedian, well, not a comedian, the actor, what's the half-white actor at the BET Awards, which I was kind of shocked that he sides with black people. I mean, he literally completely passes for white without anybody saying anything. Well, he's got green or blue eyes, and he's an activist. I mean, I don't mean to take anything from him, but the one drop rule, all of your concept of the one drop rule. Okay, so most of everybody alive today probably doesn't remember past 1950, right? So you can't go to the 30s, the 20s, the 10s, the turn of the century, 18, talking about 18 to 19. You don't know that history, first of all, because they're not going to teach you that. The one drop rule did not come about until the 50s and 60s. Shakaama, that's impossible. I know for a fact that they had the societies in New Orleans, and you couldn't get into the place unless you were lighter than the paper, but that's stupid black people. That's the idiot black people. Let me take you back past the 1800s, past the turn of the century in the 1800s. They would not and refused, even the KKK types, refused to even adhere to that whole one drop rule. Why? Because some of their most powerful people back then were what you would call a black person today. The history of the country has been so whitewashed to the point where the whitewashing has been whitewashed. You didn't know that, did you? That the KKK, the plantation owners, actually fought to make sure that there was no institution of this whole one drop rule. That one drop of black means that you're black. No, absolutely not. You had laws on the book that said you couldn't marry a black person. Okay, then we're going to get around that by making sure you're not declared black. That's why we had 6 other black presidents, because by today's standard, which is ridiculous, they're considered black, but back then they were considered white. white. And I'm not saying we're talking about one drop people. I'm talking about they were half black. But they look like this dude who got up on stage at the BET Awards. Blue eyes, straight hair, quote unquote white skin, whatever that means. I know plenty of white people who could pass for my brother. And I don't mean like soul brother. I mean like they'd be like, oh, is that your brother? He's a little bit light skinned. I mean, they're just that close to me. And I am a pure blooded Negro, right? And he's, of course, so the guy got up on stage and said, police seem to de-escalate time and time again when it comes to white people, but for black people, they shoot. Black people, they murder. Let's call it what it is. It is open season and legal to murder black people on the streets. Now, I don't need a whole bunch of white people coming in and saying, oh, you're wrong for... Look, stop defending monsters. And I don't need police to come into my... Because I have police subscribers too. I don't need police. Stop defending monsters. And there is no thin blue line. You're either with us or you're against us. You are public servants. You don't side with the monsters. And I'm talking about you all have some monsters. Cop of the year, molested 59-year-old girls, and finally gets in front of a judge who actually convicts him. And the entire police department got up on the stand to defend him. What kind of honor and integrity is that? That's crazy. Why in the heck would you side with monsters? There needs to be a complete purge of the entire police. I don't agree with the Black Lives Matter because, first of all, what they're doing is disruption. They don't actually want to talk about any sort of real sort of quote-unquote race relations. And black people and white people, you don't want race wars. We've had hundreds of race wars already. This is another whitewashing of the history of the United States. Slaves revolted time and time and time and time again. And this is actually why slavery importation was completely stopped, because slaves would revolt and slaughter entire towns. How are you going to have a plantation and every plantation in the county have 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 slaves to 5 white people? And every plantation in the county is like that? Of course the slaves are going to revolt and slaughter everybody, and you have to call in the militia, the state militia, or whatever they had. This is all being whitewashed. Then, of course, white people are mad after slavery that blacks are coming and taking their jobs because black people offered to do the job for an entire dollar under. Do you understand how much a dollar was in the 1800s? Do you understand what that was? That was big money. That was big money. And offered to do the same job for $1 less? That was big money. And who would say no to that? Nobody in their right mind would say no to that. Then they instituted minimum wage. No, hold on. Here's the order of it. Then they instituted unions. You could not join the union if you were black. That was the first step. The black people still came and still offered $1 less to do the same work. The unions took to the street and slaughtered and murdered and had race riot after race, riot after race, riot. I believe Chicago streets ran red with the blood of black people. Black people. That's men, women, and children. On the threat of full-fledged revolution, the mayors and the governors of all of the northern states, this is the North. This isn't the South. And in the South, white people literally had to wash their hands of it and just declared that that's black people work. Carpenter, plumber, electrician, window hanger, chimneys, anything sort of physical skill. Well, white people resigned themselves that was just black. But the South had stagnated, so the black people went to the North for work because the North had all sorts of factory after factory, industry after industry. On the threat of a full-fledged revolt, meaning that instead of killing just black people, these white workers and unions would then start killing white people. And they couldn't have good white people die. You can murder black men, children, and women. You can do that all day. They never even stepped in. But once they threatened a full-fledged revolution, they called in the militia and they instituted the minimum wage. Everybody's talking about the minimum wage is so helpful. No, the minimum wage said that you can't work for less than this. The Democrats have so twisted the truth around and flipped it upside down and completely whitewashed the history so that you don't understand and don't recognize that black people were the quote-unquote Mexicans of the day. That you could pay the black person under the table. That you could pay the black person, slave wages. And you know what? The black community was richer than it has ever been in the entire history of the United States. Had Martin Luther King been actually an honest person and not a communist, so warped in the head, and all of his entire group, full-fledged communists, the plague of the black community, he would have said, let's get rid of this minimum wage. There are speeches where he talked about the minimum wage. But of course, whitewash history. I have a dream, or black people, black children, and white children are going to run through the fields holding hands. That's his legacy. You people are animals. You're brutes. You're beasts. You have absolutely no idea of your own history. Yes, I'm talking about black people. Why did they kill Malcolm X? Why did they actually shoot Martin Luther King? Because he started realizing that he had made a tremendous mistake. I mean, after all, he was black, right? Tremendous mistake. He realized he was black at the very end. And he stopped going to the white communist group meetings. And Rosa Parks, communists, all of them communists. Everything staged false flags to put them in power, as taught by their white Jewish masters. Destroy the black community. Desegregation completely destroyed the black community, and the Democrats, with their new society, completely destroyed the black family. Black people were more married than white people. You never hear that. Black people were more married than any other group. Black children were born to a two-person family, meaning a husband and wife, mother and father, than any other group. And before you go, black children are now born 70% out of wedlock. That's a lie. It didn't fall that far. You can't have 90-something% and it fall all the way to 10%. One person said, 90% are out of wedlock. No, it's an impossibility. Why am I saying it's an impossibility? Because I have the stats of the marriage rates and the head of households. Statistics is a lie. I can literally, with statistics, prove to you that the devil walks through Times Square every day. That's how terrible the entire system of statistics is. We were more married, children born to a two-person family, than any other group. That's Asians, that's Latinos, that's white, that's Native American, everybody. The KKK did nothing but squeeze us together more and more and more. More that the KKK showed up, the more we got married and made sure we stuck together. And they didn't snatch the black woman out of the household and make her fight the black man and fight the children and abort the children and commit genocide on her own damn race. I don't agree with Black Lives Matter. It is a complete tool and arm of George Soros. That's all it is. Anybody who's involved in it, you need to investigate your group, because you belong to a group that you should not belong to. You don't have to belong to a group at all. And what have you accomplished? Has any one community gotten rid of the sheriff, chief of police, officers that have shot and killed and murdered in cold blood black people? It's funny that you don't have these incidences in private security. And I know people are because private security has a different method of operation. Private security also comes with guns and stuff. But they de-escalate situations all the time. Everybody, including black people. How's that possible? Well, back in the day when police were private, do you not know that part of the history of the United States? When police were private, they did stuff like that, de-escalate situations. Why? Because at the end of the day, they wanted to be hired again. It would be very bad if you had private police and they went around shooting people, including black people. Some white people won't tolerate that. So Black Lives Matter is not doing anything beneficial for the black community. But I said it's 70% white anyway. If you find a black person, it's the mainstream media. Because when I go see real footage of real actual meetings, it's white people. I don't see black people. And if you just happen to be the one black person where when you go to meetings, all you see are black people, count yourself lucky or unlucky. I don't know. I don't agree with it. So count yourself unlucky because that's not the real group. The real group is a bunch of white people. And at the top, the very tip top of it is really a bunch of white people, white Jewish people. Always. The Jews have always controlled black people. Always. Don't let this whole Goyim stuff fool you. Talked about white people. First of all, they are white. They're Khazarian. And I hold no intrinsic hatred of Jewish people at all. I'm just stating facts. These people are Jewish. And at every instance where we have black organization, you find Jewish people who have actually done the organizing. And all of these black people who really want to be activists of some sort. And it doesn't even take all that. Group economics doesn't take any organization. 20 people, let's buy this building. 100 people, let's buy this building. 1,000 black people, let's buy this city block and every stitch of commercial property on it. Oh, that's racist. Mexicans do it. Cubans do it all day, all night, every day, all day long. You haven't been going to some sort of little white area, little white strip mall, and then look around and there's a bunch of Mexicans there? How did that happen? Oh, and they didn't just stop at the strip mall. They went on to the athletic club, the restaurant, the gas station, and pushing over to the next block and the next block. And pretty soon they move in everybody into all the apartments surrounding it. Oh, and it's not just Mexicans, Filipinos, Koreans, Chinese, Japanese. They all do it. The black people think they need to do something super duper special. They just need to, you already live in the area. You just need to go down with about 100 of you and 100 of you sign. What's the bank going to do? Say no? You just stop buying your stuff at that Korean store. That's how you do it. You don't need a referendum. You don't need Congress. You don't need handouts. But we have hard-headed people in our community. We have evil black women. Why don't you come up off of that food stamps? You ain't got nothing for me. Okay, all right. I'm only sitting here in a 3-piece suit. My cufflink costs more than everything that you have in your entire house. Maybe you might want to listen to me. Speaking of cufflinks, I bought some new French cuff shirts, and I can't find cufflinks. That's a segue, isn't it? But how is it the police are de-escalating white people? De-escalating when a white guy actively says he's going to murder a presidential candidate and actively grabs a policeman's gun. Is he a thug too? I want Fox News and CNN and MSNBC to paint the picture of him, darken his picture so he looks super duper dark white guy. They even de-escalated the white dude that shot and killed the 9 church-going black people. De-escalated, arrested him, and walked him out to the car without handcuffs. How do you like that? Okay, that's the mainstream media for you. Thank you for watching the Shakaama Live Show. And Shakaama / that like button.